Hi everyone, good afternoon and welcome to our KITS mobile webinar. Now this is going to be a series of webinars which will be showing you how to provide creative solutions for your clients. Now before we begin, let me introduce myself. My name is Franklin and I will be your webinar presenter today. Most of you do know me already as you've probably participated in one of my training sessions or been on a lengthy phone call with me. But for those of you who don't know, I just want to let you know that over the years, I've had the privilege of working on many great projects as an interior designer and as a sales consultant. I'm now in an exciting chapter in my career as a product app specialist here for KITS Mobile. I'd also like to introduce to you Julia, who will be moderating today's webinar.
Hi everyone, my name is Julia. I'm the marketing specialist for KITS, and I'll be your webinar moderator for today. From managing our KITS blog to updating our social media pages, I always want to make sure that our users have helpful resources available to enhance their KITS experience. Now before we begin, if you have any questions for us throughout the webinar, please feel free to submit them in the chat box. This is just located on the GoToWebinar control panel on the right side of your screen. I'll be monitoring all the incoming questions, and I'll take a few minutes after each topic to answer them. We'll also have a quick Q&A at the end of this webinar. So Franklin, let's get started.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Julia. So today we'll be going over using our new KITS Office Environment Elements Catalog. In short, the KOE catalog. Now, most of you have already had a chance to play with it. Today, the webinar is going to go over really the basics of really how to use the catalog. So here's the agenda. What we'll be doing is we'll be looking to adding office equipment and accessories like computers, telephones, and plants, adding people in various gestures, also adding architectural elements like walls, windows, doors, and flooring. And lastly, creating that final estimation using the stunning visualization you're just about to create. Okay? So let's go ahead and let's get started. Now, if you'd like to, what you can do is you can simply listen and watch the webinar, or you can open up a previous project and follow along. Okay? So this is pretty much the scenario here. We've been given a project to re-specify the client's office space now using their favorite manufacturer. If this is your first time using the KOE catalog, you'll first have to sync it to your iPad. So as you can see here, we have the situation which is an executive office. Now, the idea is that we're going to build the environment to illustrate our concept as well as adding the elements to really help emphasize the sales message. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's go into KITS. And so, again, if this is your first time using it, what you'll have to do is you'll have to make sure that you sync the new catalog, which can be found under the KITS Design Collection here on the left-hand side. And then make sure that you tap the radio button, tap Sync Now, and make sure you download that catalog. Okay? So let's go ahead and let's open up a project. So basically, after multiple iterations, this was the concept that we came up with for this executive office. However, it's lacking that luster to really help sell the idea of our concept. So what can we really do to emphasize our sales message? The first thing we want to do is we want to open up the KOE catalog. And as you can see here, upon opening it, you can see that it's built similarly like other catalogs. You have your categories to choose from with items within that category to drag into your scene. Okay? In this case, what we want to start off with are your standard office elements. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tap on Office Elements, and then I'm going to tap on Equipment. And then I'm just going to take a quick look to see what's available to me. Now, there's no right or wrong here. What you can do really is look around what's around you and what you use on a daily basis, and you can really use those items to really help decorate your space. In this case, it's an executive, so what we want to do is we want to bring in equipment that is suitable for an executive. So let's go ahead and I'm going to drag in Laptop 2. Now I'm just going to place it on the desk here, and it's really up to you whether or not you want to edit it at this point, or if you want to wait till you bring all the items. I like to edit it as I drag in, so I'm just going to quickly turn this around so it's ready for the executive to use. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's drag in some other items. Now we see here the telephone, because we know that the executive is going to be making some important phone calls with his important clients. Now I'm just going to zoom in here quickly, and as you can see that the equipment that I dragged in is slightly below the work surface, and that's because we assigned the items that are for desk surfaces or worktop surfaces an assigned height of 29 inches. We all know that standard heights are usually between 28.5 and 29.5, So in case you see the equipment in here, what you're going to have to do is just slightly adjust it. You're already used to using the three-finger gesture to vertically raise any item, so I'm just going to quickly do that. There we go. All right, so the next set of items I want to bring in, again, are going to be for this executive, the items that they're going to use on a daily basis. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to bring in this printer. Now I'm just going to drag the printer, and right now I'm just going to leave it on the credenza there. And I'm also going to drag in the recycle bin. All right, great. So I pretty much have all the equipment that this executive needs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly go into my plan view, and now I'm just going to slightly adjust all these items. Now, you may have to do a series of different camera angles and different camera views going into plan view, as well as turning on and off your Snap 2. And I do suggest going through the motion only because turning off the Snap 2 really does help you move the item in place to where you need it to be exactly. All right, great. So we're almost there, and let's just fix this laptop. Perfect. All right, so as you can see here, we've already brought in a few items. It's really helped spruce up the actual scene, giving it more of a human factor. But you know, we're still lacking a little bit of that that wow factor. So let's go ahead and let's decorate the space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into my Add Item menu, and this time what I want to do is I'm going to open up accessories. Okay, so again, I'm just going to take a look at all the accessories that I have available right now, and then I'm going to choose the best ones that will help really emphasize the functionality of the space as well. So I'm going to bring in the first set of books here, and I'm just going to quickly drag it and place it on my desk. Now I'm going to go back into my Snap 2, turn that on, and then go into my plan view, and now just start placing it appropriately. There you go. Okay, so now you can see there I have my books on that beautiful shelf I have, part of my concept. So let's go ahead and drag a few more items. I'm going to go ahead and drag in another set of books. And again, go through the same process as I did before so that I can place it properly. There we go. And now as you can see, it doesn't fit in the scene. So what I want to make sure I do is I'm going to turn off my Snap 2, and now I'm just going to raise those books so they sit on the second shelf. And again, don't be too worried about being so precise, because remember what you're creating here is a visualization of the space. Really what you want to capture is a great reflection of what the client space is going to look like after you close that sale. So let's go ahead and let's add a few more accessories. All right, it is the afternoon, and this executive works hard, so they'll need their afternoon coffee. I'm sure most of us can relate to this, so let's bring that in. And then let's go ahead and drag in a few more items. We definitely need a paper tray so we could stack our paper here on the credenza. I'm just going to place that there. And lastly, I'm going to use a pencil and paper, and I'm going to drag it on the executive desk. And as you can see here, the pencil and paper comes below the work surface. So again, I want to make sure my Snap 2 is on for this. And now I'm going to vertically raise using the three-finger gesture, bringing up the pencil and paper to the desk. Okay, now I'm going to go into my plan view, and I'm just going to fix some of these items that I brought in. So as you can see here, I'm going through a series of motions of using the Snap 2, different camera angles, as well as different camera views. And this will really help you navigate the space and making sure that all items are fitting appropriately within that space. All right, so let's go ahead and fix this paper tray. And there we go. All right, so another thing that you may want to do is you may want to lock your camera angle just so you have the appropriate perspective you want to be looking at of your scene, and so that you don't really move it and it stays in place so you can actually place your items appropriately. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tap on the unlock button found on the bottom right. Okay, so now I can see that my perspective is now locked, my camera view is locked, so now I can start dragging in more items without having to change that camera angle. Okay, so Again, we're starting to look a little bit better than when we first started, but it's still lacking a little bit of the accessories that I think will help sell the idea. So let's go ahead and decorate the space with some plants. So what we're going to do is, again, we're going to go back into the KOE catalog, and we're going to open up our plants category. All right. Now I do know left of that credenza is going to be a corner based on the image that I had in the beginning. So I want to bring in a floor plan and place it right left of that credenza. Okay. Now I'm going to bring a few more other plants. Let's take in this small plant here. We'll place it on the credenza. Now I'll need my snap to for this. And now vertically raise it. There we go. And let's drag in one more small plant, and we'll place that on the meeting table. Perfect. All right. So now what I want to do is I just want to make my quick adjustments. I'm going to go back to plan view. I'm going to turn off my snap to again. And this time I'm going to start adjusting the items in place to where I want them to be. All right. So the idea here is that you really get familiar with all the items, as well as really what are the series of motions you're going to have to do to create your scene. All right, so let's go take a look at it. Now that's looking 10 times better than when I first started. I'm pretty satisfied with this. So just for good practice, what I want to do is I want to make sure that I save this project. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to tap on the projects link. I'm going to make sure I save this project. Great. So now I'm just going to go back in. And now what I want to do is I want to create a quick rendering. In this case, for the webinar, I'm just going to use the good quality fast. But if you do have enough time to actually do this back at the office, then my suggestion is you actually go through the best quality because it will really capture what you really want to show your client. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's render this.
And while that renders, we'll take some questions. So you go ahead and enter your questions in the chat box, and I will let Franklin know what you are wondering. So we have a question here. How can you get the KOE catalog if it's not available in your catalog subscription screen at the moment?
Well, just make sure that you followed my example in the beginning. Make sure that you are in the publisher or the manufacturer list. You're going to have to flick up to make sure you find the Kits Design Collection. Now, if the Kits Design Collection is not part of your publisher list, please email support. We'll send up the a screen with the Kit support email. And what you can do is you can email them at the end of the session indicating that you do require the Kits Design Collection, the KOE catalog. Now, this KOE catalog is available to all Kits users.
Great. And another question here. Should I be decorating the space in front of my client?
Well, really, that's a comfortability factor. And I can tell you right now, I'm very used to building these scenes, and you know, again, I'm part of the content creation team, so I do know what items are available to me. So it really takes me roughly about 10 to 15 minutes to really build, you know, a simple scene. What you really want to do is you want to emphasize and focus on the items that are really going to really help your sales message. So in this case, this is an executive office. I want to make sure that the items I drag into the scene really emphasize the fact that, you know, this is going to function as an executive office. Okay?
Great. Okay. And a couple of people here are asking about the Snap To. If you maybe Franklin could go back and show them how to access that function, the Snap To collision.
Not a problem. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to quickly save this. You don't necessarily have to email this out to your client. You already are used to doing that. In this case, what I suggest is that you just copy it to your photo library, because what we want to do is we want to use this for the final estimation. Okay? So we're just going to go back. And then for all of you that are wondering where the or how to turn on and off your Snap To, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you go to your project settings here at the top right of the cogwheel. And then what you're going to do is you can tap on that cogwheel, and then just under your layout aids, you'll see Snap To, and you just want to make sure that your switch is turned on. Okay, like so. So right now that indicates that my Snap To function is currently on.
Perfect. And one last question before we continue. Some of our viewers here are seeing the extra items in their list view. How would they be able to remove it?
So that's a really good question. And as you can see here, if I take you into the list view, you can already see that I do have the new elements that I added to my scene with a value of 0 that does kind of clutter your list view. So before I really get into how you eliminate that from your list view, I just want to let you know that we're going to take a look at creating a final estimation using only the furniture items that you specified without having the additional items added. So we're going to take a look at that at the very end during our estimation segment, okay?
Perfect. I think we should go ahead and continue.
All right, great. So that really takes us on to our second segment. Now, this segment is going to be adding people to your scene. Now, why do you want to add people? It's a great question. As an interior designer, we add people for two main reasons, really to show the functionality of the space as well as to provide a proper scale. There's nothing that scales better in an image than people. So in this case, what we want to do is we want to scroll down, make sure we get into the KOE catalog, and then we're going to access the people category. Okay, and as you can see here, we have various models of people in various gestures, from standing to sitting down to walking. Now, what you want to make sure you do is you want to make sure that you use really the right person in the right gesture that is kind of selling the idea of the function of that space. So first off, this space needs an executive. So what we want to do is we want to choose an executive. Here I'm going to use Can. So we're going to go tap on Can, and now I'm going to drag Can into my scene. Okay. Now, as you can see, he's a dark silhouette. The reason why we've created dark silhouettes of people rather than fully rendered people is the fact that the idea here, again, is creating the visualization to sell the layout that you've created. Okay? So what you want to do is, or what we do as designers, is we use these dark silhouettes to really, again, provide that function of the space as well as the scale without taking away from the layout that we created. So in this case, you know, the furniture layout that you created is still being emphasized as your focus of the sales message. Okay? So now I'm just going to quickly turn Ken around. I just want to make sure he's sitting in that seat properly, nice and comfortable. Okay, now what I want to do is I'm going to bring in those important clients I was talking about in the beginning. So we're going to bring Christina. Christina's a great worker. She takes awesome notes. So we're going to make sure that she's included in this meeting. And now we're going to turn her around in her seat. Okay. And then lastly, what we want to do is we want to bring in Christina's associate. We're going to bring in Julie. And Julie's going to make sure that she's overseeing this, this meeting. Okay, perfect. So now that we have our people in, what I want to do is I want to quickly go into my plan view. And again, I'm going to go into my project settings, turning off my Snap to, because this will really help me position my models correctly. Now, at this point, you will have to adjust. The model, as well as possibly the furniture item, so that it fits your scene correctly. Okay. And then we're just going to move Christina ever so slightly. And lastly, we're just going to make sure that Julie is comfortable. She looks like she's about to sit down or possibly leave. So there we go. We got our people. Again, we're focusing on the functionality of the space. Now, again, this is an executive office with the executive meeting important clients. You could see that I chose to focus all the action around that executive desk rather than the meeting table. Okay, so I'm satisfied with that. What I want to do is I want to go ahead and I want to quickly render the scene.
Perfect. And as that renders, we'll take some more questions. One of our viewers here is following along, which is great, but they say that Ken is not available in 3D for Christina. So some of the models, maybe a plant, it's not showing up in 3D. Franklin, do you have any tips on how to fix this?
Yeah, now this usually happens when you start to, or if you've just started syncing the catalog to your iPad. If you just give it a moment, it will fetch the graphic. You may have to go in and out of the project in order for that graphic to appear. Okay, but you will see the 3D model of Ken and all the other models that are available.
Perfect. Another question here: what is a good amount of people to use in your space?
Again, that's a very good question. And as I mentioned before, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have a focus on what you really want to emphasize here. And in this case, it's an executive office. So that's the reason why I chose the executive as well as the executive's clients to really illustrate what we're doing here. Let's take hypothetically, if this was a conference meeting, then what we want to do is we want to make sure that we bring in the right amount of people. If it's a conference room with 10 chairs, then bring in 10 people. I mean, the idea is that you don't want to take away from the layout that you created. You want to use these people to really help emphasize. And as you can see, if we look at the rendering here, you can see that the scale that it's actually providing, because you can see that I provide a scale with seating height as well as with standing height. So now you can really see what this space is going to look like in actuality.
Perfect. And let's just take another question before we continue. What happens if the person doesn't fit where I place them, or they pass through other items?
And that's a really important question to ask. Now let me just make sure I save this. There we go. And let's go back. Okay, now I'm just going to unlock my camera here. And I'm just going to rotate. This is also a good way to validate your project. And as you can see here, I'm just going to zoom in. We actually have Can's legs going right through the modesty panel. And you will find instances of this occurring. Now, there's nothing that we can really do to manipulate a model or a furniture item or a symbol that's created by the manufacturer so that it fits properly in the scene, because, again, this is a visualization that we're creating. The idea is that you want to, what you really want to get across is the reflection of your client's space with the new concept that you've created. So again, that's the reason why you really have to look at the scene and play with the appropriate perspective that you want to showcase to your client. In this case, I've left it in this angle, and the reason being is because I have that mobile ped, which is actually helping me hide Can's legs. Okay? So again, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're creating the proper visual and choosing the appropriate perspective to really represent or present the estimation, the final estimation. Okay?
Great. That's perfect. I think those are all the questions we have for now, so let's go ahead and let's add some architectural elements.
Okay, great. So, at this point, you may have been used to using the include environment function, which you can find under HD render, which allows you to take a picture of an existing office space and place the furniture in there. What we've done is we've gone a little bit further and now have allowed you to create the environment using the architectural elements here that we have included. But before I start, what I want to do is I just want to go back to the original project again. So again, looking at this image, the first thing that you want to do is you want to understand what are the elements that are necessary for the visualization. Okay, so here we can see that we have curtain wall glass that's going into a corner. We have a column structure here with the ceiling. We have the flooring. And then we have that glass door, which creates the other partition. So you can see here, those are the most major architectural elements that we do see in the scene. So what you have to do is you really have to assess what's going to be necessary for you to get across your idea. You don't necessarily need all the elements. And then you also have to take in consideration the perspective or the angle in which you want to showcase your layout to your client. So in this case, what I've done is I've identified the items which I'll be using for the scene. So here, to really define the layout, I need to bring in the curtain wall glass, the column structure, as well as the floor. Now, the reason why we don't have any kind of ceiling here is because you don't necessarily need a ceiling to help you showcase your layout. And as well, because of the perspective, I don't really need to see that door. So these are the three main points that I want to work on. Now, where do I start? That's a great question, because you could be looking at this and you wouldn't even know where to start. So in this case, what I do recognize is that the curtain glass wall are going into a corner. So that's a good place for me to start. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I go and I'm going to add that curtain wall first. So I'm going to go into my architectural elements here. Now I'm going to go into wall configurations. And I'm going to go into my curtain wall typicals. And at this point, you will need some information from your client, and I'm sure this is information your client will share. We're talking about room dimensions, ceiling heights, specifics like that, maybe column sizes. So in this case, let's assume that the client had mentioned that the ceiling is 10 feet high. So let's go ahead and let's select the 10-foot high category. And then what I want to do is I want to bring in a curtain wall that's going to be long enough to really be part of the perspective that I'm creating here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use this 20-foot by 10-foot wall. And now I'm going to drag this into the scene. Okay. Now I'm just going to quickly go into plan view. And now this is quite important. This is also where you can start using the floor grid to really help create your layout. Now again, there are no dimensions included in this, so a lot of the time this is a guesstimation of the space because again, at the end of the day, what you're creating is a visualization of the space that's supposed to reflect what your client space is supposed to look like. So, you know, having an inch or two off, you know, is okay. You know, once you get into 4 feet, 5 feet, then, you know, those are specifics that you do have to consider to making sure that what you're doing validates, you know, for your client, okay? So in this case, what I want to do is I'm going to turn on my snap to. I'm going to turn that back on, and then I'm going to duplicate this wall. So let's just quickly rotate it. And what I'm going to do is I am now just going to attach it at the corner. Perfect. Okay, so now I have my curtain wall glass, just like the original image. So let's continue on, and let's drag in that column. Now the client mentioned that there's a 15-inch column structure that's square, that's in that space. So I'm going to make sure that I choose the element that closely resembles that size and that column. So let's go ahead, and I do know I have a 14 by 120 square here, so I'm going to quickly drag that in. And I'm just going to go into my plan view. And now I'm going to place it where it needs to go. Perfect. Okay, and you do notice that the column structure comes in as a grayscale, and that's because I can apply a wall color to that column structure. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to double tap on it, and I'm going to go into wall color. And as you can see here, you do have your options. So basically, you have dark tones, light tones, medium tones, as well as whites and neutrals to choose from. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to tap on my whites and neutrals, and for this case, I'm going to use Bianca. Okay, and I'm going to tap on Done. So it's just like specifying any of your furniture items, and there you go. I now have a white wall color to that column structure. So the last thing I want to do is I want to bring in some type of carpet. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to go into the flooring category. And what we're going to do is we're going to use a large enough carpet that's going to be able to cover the area. Don't be afraid if it passes through or if it overlaps, because all you want to do is you want to make sure that the area that's going to be rendered is covered. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to use this 15 foot by 15 foot carpet, and now I'm going to drag that into my scene. All right, so let's quickly go to plan view. And I may need to create a few duplicates of this. Let's create another duplicate. There you go. Now I'm just going to go back to my 3D view, and it looks to cover everything. So again, you know, I only need to create one duplicate in order to cover the scene that I'm going to render. Okay. Now at this point, I have all my architectural elements in. I have my floor. I have my column structure. I have my curtain wall glass. So what you want to do at this point is really you want to make sure that you validate the project. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly rotate my project, making sure that everything looks great and that I can make sure that my scene is correct. Okay. Now I'm just going to quickly zoom in, and I want to make sure that I capture all the furniture items as well as all the items that I added to the scene. So you can see here the frame of my iPad is complete. I have all the elements that I added. This completely is a 180 from where I originally started with a white space. It now has the accessories that the executive needs. It has the executive as well as the executive's clients. My scene looks 10 times better, and I now have a livelier scene. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to quickly save this. Just go back into the project. And now what I want to do is create a quick rendering.
Perfect. And while that renders, feel free to ask any questions or provide some feedback in the chat box. We're more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. We have a question here for you, Franklin. what if you don't have certain information or measurements from your client?
Again, just to reiterate, these are important questions to ask your client. And now, in case you can't get that information, always remember that what you're doing is you're trying to create a visualization here. So you really want to capture the best way you can create a space reflecting the client's requirements as well as the space that it needs to stay in. So, without that information, you could still go ahead and create the idea, but getting that information is important for you to really create an effective looking space.
Perfect. And another question here, what if my client has solid walls instead of curtain walls?
Again, a very good question. Here, in this case, in this scenario, we had curtain walls to deal with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly save this again to my photo library. And just for you, for any of you out there that have a project currently with solid walls, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a solid wall to this project. So I'm just going to quickly remove the back wall here. I'm going to go back to my Add Item menu, go into the KOE catalog, and this time I'm going to select Walls. We know it's 10 feet high, so I'm going to make sure that's indicated. And now I'm going to take the largest wall I can find here, which is 10 feet by 10 feet, and I'm going to drag this into the space. Okay. Now, just going back here, you can see that there are quite a few different dimensions that you can use from, and this is so you can get as closely as possible to what your client space actually looks like. All you need to do is drag in the item that works for you in terms of the dimension, and then you could just keep adding up until you fulfill that requirement. Okay. So again, I'm going to go back to my plan view, and I'm just going to quickly rotate this. Now let's drag it and connect it to the curtain wall. And it looks like we'll need to create a duplicate. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, great. And now let's go back to my 3D view. So now you can see here I've included a solid wall. Again, it's in grayscale, so I'm going to double tap. And now I'm going to choose a wall color. Sky's the limit here. We have quite a few colors to choose from. I'm going to go with a medium tone. And let's go with this Ballyhow here. So there we go. I'm going to tap on Done. And there we go. So now we have that particular setting with a solid wall as well as with the curtain wall there. So again, I'm going to go ahead and create a quick rendering of that.
Great. And a viewer was asking about the carpet, if you were able to change the colors of the carpet and flooring.
Now, again, the idea here is that we started off with some basic elements. This is something that this catalog is going to be pretty much a catalog that we're going to keep developing as we go along. So before I touch upon that, I will show you where you can actually provide your suggestions to getting the items that you like into our catalog. If there's particular swatches that you like or carpet colors that you like, I mean, those are things that we'll be glad to listen to and review. And hey, you never know, your suggestion may appear in the next catalog, okay? So this rendering is complete. I'm just going to quickly save it. And then now I'm going to go back to the scene. I'm just going to go back again. In case you ever make a mistake, you always have the undo and redo. I'm just going to make sure I bring up that curtain wall again. Nope. I think I lost it. So let's go ahead and let's just go back to my plan view. And let's reproduce it.
Great. And while you're doing that, a viewer here is asking, if you create the walls in Kits Mobile, will these appear in the I'm assuming the web version? Do the walls sync over between both platforms?
Yes. So those of you that are used to using Kits Web as well as Kits Mobile, if you create a DXF file generated from the Kits Mobile platform, you can definitely import it right into your Kits Web, and vice versa. So if you create the project in Kits Web, you can sync that project to your mobile, and you'll be able to see the elements that you've used.
Great. I think we should go ahead and continue.
Perfect. Okay, so we're really on to the last segment of this webinar here, and that's creating that final estimation. So somebody had asked earlier, what do I do with all these elements that appeared in my list view? Well, if we take a look at the list view again, you can see that I have all the elements that I added that are from the KOE catalog even though it has an assigned price of 0, it still kind of clutters that list view, okay? And if we go back and we look at, or we try to create a quick sheet, again, what you can see here is if I just flick up here, because the item details are automatically on, you can see here that all those items are also included in that PDF that's going to be generated. So there is a process right now in order for you to have a nice, clean estimation with just the furniture layout that you created. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to go out of the actual scene builder, and what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to create a copy simply by tapping and holding the project, tapping on the copy button, and there you go. You can see here that I've created a copy. You can actually change the project file name at this point. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to say KOE webinar. And there we go. So now I'm going to go into my copy. And so what you're going to have to do at this point is you're going to have to eliminate all the items that you just added. Now that does seem a little tedious because you're going to have to go in and select all the items. But what you can do is you can double tap on your select icon here on the left-hand side. And what that will do is it'll select all the items that are now in your scene. Okay? So now at this point what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to deselect all the furniture items that are going to be included in your estimation. So we'll start with the desk chairs, or the guest chairs here. Let's get that bed, the desk, the shelf, the executive chair, and now this meeting table. Okay. And now lastly, the credenza. So I've now pretty much deselected those furniture items that need to remain in my scene. So now I'm going to tap on remove, and I've now removed all the elements that I just added that are from the KOE catalog. So at this point, what I can do now is I can now go into the quick sheet. Here I'm just going to tap save. And as you can see, what it's actually showing me is the last image of the saved project. And then you have on the left-hand side all the information that you can include in this project quick sheet. And just for those of you that need a little refresher here, if I change the project name on the estimation, it doesn't change the project name in the project file. So here I'm just going to say this is the KISP office. And then at this point, I'm just going to close the keyboard by tapping in the keyboard at the bottom right corner. At this point, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select one of those beautiful renderings that I created. So I'm going to tap on HD rendering. And as you can see here, this is the reason why I save all my images to the photo library. You now have a selection of 4 stunning HD renderings that you can choose from. Okay. Now again, this is only good quality fast. If you wish to do the best quality, you can certainly do so if time permits in front of your client, or you could take it back to your office and you could do it there. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to select the second one. That's the HD rendering I want to show. So now you have all the elements that you included in your scene builder without the clutter of those elements. So now I just have the configured price of the scene that I created, and then you can go ahead and you can do the discounting as you're used to. You can add any note if you wish to. We're just going to say this is a private office. And then you can choose to turn on or off your item details, just as you normally do with the projects that you've already created. All right, well, you know what, that pretty much takes us right through the process of using the KOE catalog and creating that estimation using the new items that are now part of that catalog.
Perfect. So we'll take this time. If you have any questions, feel free to submit them in the chat box now. You know, we really hope that everyone starts to add these elements to their projects from the new catalog. You know, adding a few extra items here and there will greatly enhance your sales message. And even with a bit of practice, I think we both think that you'll feel comfortable, that you and your design team will feel comfortable decorating any space for your client. So we'll take a couple more questions. A viewer here was asking if you can use existing photos previously taken of the client's office. I'm assuming for the environment photo.
Now, you can't use an existing photo. I mean, you're going to have to use that as a reference file for you to build the environment from, just as I have with this image that I used for this webinar. Um, you know, uh, again, using the this is where you're going to have to best judge how to build your scene. You could still use the include environment function that we've already created. It's still a great way of getting and capturing your client's space in real time and with augmented reality, really placing that furniture item in the space. It makes it much more personal. Or you can actually go ahead and create that reflection using the environment, the KOE catalog, and using the architectural elements that are available to you.
Great. We have a question here. Now, how often will the catalog be updated with new items?
Very good question. We are continually looking to develop this catalog. It's something that we know that clients have been wanting for quite some time. Again, I want you all to understand this is a visual sales platform. It's not a design tool. I wish it was a design tool. I'm a designer myself, and I could definitely use it as a design tool. But at the end of the day, what we want to make sure is that we want to make sure we strengthen your efforts in winning your bids with your clients. So we are looking to develop this catalog. We do update it on a monthly basis. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly take you into our KITS blog. And you can access our KITS blog by entering www.kits.com/kits/blog. And then you can actually take a look at our environment section. And I just want to scroll down to the very bottom here. And you can see here is a better looking version of me. This is my avatar. Basically, I'm all ears. So I really want to hear your suggestions. I'm looking to really develop this, and with your help, what we can do is we can add the items that you think are really going to help strengthen your sales message, okay? So you can easily email me by tapping on this link, or most of you do have my email address already, or you can actually email KITS support, and you can let them know of your suggestions, and you never know what's going to happen. You can suggest 5 items, and you never know. The next update, those items may appear in our catalog.
Perfect. We actually have a suggestion. Adding TV monitors would be great. So that's a perfect suggestion. We'll take that into consideration.
Perfect. Those are vital suggestions that we need to hear from you because, again, hearing our viewers or hearing our users' comments and suggestions will only better the experience using the KITS collaborator on the iPad.
And I think those are all the questions we have for today. We'll start wrapping it up. I think everyone's got a really great idea of how to use this catalog.
You know what? It was great to have the showing that we had today. We are really looking forward to hearing your suggestions and your comments that will help better this catalog for your use. It's something that I personally take some pride and joy in building with the content creation team here, and we know that with this particular catalog developed, it'll only help strengthen really your sales efforts out there in the field. I'd like to thank all of you again for joining me. Have a great day, guys, and I hope to hear from you soon.